Yeah.
Okay.
Friends.
Hello.
How's it?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Mick.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Very good.
Very good. I'm
Okay,
good.
cool.
Are you working hard? Are you
Yeah.
excited for tonight?
Yeah, I've been working like a monkey, crazy, just like whipping this piece of
Hello.
paper again,
Hello, Diane.
doing things.
Hello, Amanda, who's
Hello,
resting
darling.
very nicely, I see.
Yeah, I've been doing a retreat,
Yeah, it's working.
a home-based retreat.
Yeah.
Man.
So I just need some my paper,
Yeah.
please. Next, just have it on the
where?
table. So I'm just giving me the paper on the table there. Got my pens, and I just need those two folders.
I was trying to show you my
I think
Christmas
they,
tree.
yeah.
I'm going the wrong way. Wait,
Your Christmas
check
tree.
behind me. Yeah, check behind me. Can you
Oh,
see?
yay. Happy Christmas.
I put it up.
You have to hang all your dreams on there for next year. All the things that you want to manifest.
That'll be okay. Anything else?
I've got two pairs of glasses on.
I know. It's fine. It's fine. Keeps my hair up.
Okay. So that
Your stream is buffering,
one
Diane.
thing that I wanted to say, Amanda, just very quickly before we get going, is that maybe the people should do, this exercise where we are.
I'm not hearing you at all well. Maybe just leave your camera off. It's like buffering terribly. I can't hear you, what you're saying. Maybe just turn your camera off, Diane. Okay,
Yes,
let's get going. Let's we can talk about that later because I know Rob's on a schedule. Okay, Diane, can we leave that little chat until after we're done with Rob?
Yes, of course, yes, no problem.
Cool.
All right, one, right, Sims. Okay. Just seeing what I'm writing here. Good. Okay. Thanks for joining me at such short notice.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. All very exciting.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So the first three things on the agenda. One is ultraviolet. The other one is Sims, and the other one is rights of a being. So,
okay.
Number two. What's that? Ultraviolet. Okay. Ultraviolet. Location. I'll just put location, and then. Okay. So I'll just start off with, I guess, we'll do ultraviolet at the end to see how Diane's doing with her connection. If she can hear us, then we should be able to just, because her camera's off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've switched it off now.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
If you can see us, that's fine. Then it's easy.
Yes, I can.
First thing,
yeah, I can.
Okay, magic. So the three rights of the being are if this has got to do with persistences or just it has other uses. It always works in different arenas as well. And whatever you notice if you do it for yourself, then there might be all sorts of results that come out. And there's this thing I've developed here. It's called SIMS, and basically what it is it's similarities and differences. Now, in any spiritual capacity, one is always looking to be certain that it's you, the one that's in control here, to do something you intend to do. You want to do something, or it could be anything, whether it's remote viewing or whether it's doing some sort of therapeutic work with people, or where you want to parallel the mind. You want to make things parallel. And then when you're with people, you feel that or if you're in an intimate session with PTSD, or it could be anything, you really want to get that person. You want to make sure that it happens. And so this will help with that type of stuff as well. and it's called Differences and Similarities. And the differences and similarities, if you were to put that into one word, it would be called differentiation. The opposite to differentiation is identification. So one drops identity because that's given to you by the state or by your school or by your, let's say, it could be, it classifies you. You're classified as a certain class, like lower, upper, middle class, all these classifications really. And those all come out as identities. And then when you're a teenager, it's like, who am I really? And all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So there's this whole thing in life that you go through where you sort of wonder, where do I fit in? And often people choose an identity that's related to their profession. So it's an easy thing. Oh, well, I'm an accountant or I'm a doctor. You know, it's like, you're a doctor. No, we know who you are.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And that doesn't, you are not your job. You are not your, you are not your hat in life. Your hat, if you get let's say, your sort of Monday to Friday job, that you could call that a hat. But there's two versions of a hat. The one version is the skill you learned at university, and then you go and you get so many dollars for it per hour or whatever, and that's a skill, and that's a hat. But then also you'll have a hat that's a spiritual hat, and people complain most about what's my purpose, my mission, what's the goal in my, what am I supposed to be doing, that kind of thing. So it does help to separate other effects out from under you and get rid of them. So that's the difference. So you have identity, and then the opposite, you have a differentiation. Mm-hmm. And a being, in order to gain understanding of self, in order to be an empty cup, your cup full of maybe your own thoughts or conclusions or considerations, you should be able to empty that. And so that's what this exercise does. It empties it out, and you differentiate, saying, I'm not like what I'm not and what I'm similar to. So what I have here is, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, I'll give you a chance if you probably think of it.
Yep.
And then you can write this down.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to help you with persisting presences. I'm going to help you with like how the definitions of that, but how it's defined or what it's meant by, just in case, so that's well duplicated. It's actually very intelligent what this is, because when you start to see how it's applied, then you start to get, in the beginning, you'll feel like you're not used to it, like get a dress on that you haven't worn for like 3 years or whatever, and then suddenly it starts to kind of, you get used to it, and then suddenly you get quite good at it. So it's like that kind of thing. And then this goes along with 3 rights. Okay, so you can write it lower down the page or whatever. The power of choice is senior to any responsibility you've ever taken in this lifetime, or on any lifetime, or on any existence, or any other place that you think you've come from or been, or whatever it is. It's always senior. And a lot of people have a misunderstanding. People live life as effort. That's when you talk to someone responsible for everything, and it's a whole very serious, and people get worried, and but that's because of the cabal. That's not because of what I'm saying. Trying to help with this here is that responsibility is its responsibility as effort. So now, in this regard, on the sentence, it's power of choice. It's important to remember power of choice is always senior to responsibility. Only when you've chosen actually yourself, and you haven't been, it's not enforced responsibility. That's what I'm implying.
Okay.
And that's often why people can't, why drug rehab centers have such bad, or why they have so many relapse cases, or why they're sitting at a 70-30 split on their recoveries. They get 30% into them. Wow, that's an amazing stat. Well, no, not really. It's because of responsibility, because responsibility is very gently forced in to a person, like through school. You know, you got to go to school and you must do this and you have to have these answers be correct and you should be intelligent enough to know this, and if you don't, you get laughed at, and the teacher smacks you with a shatterproof ruler, and your father maybe like gives you, you know, hidings if you don't do this. At school, and there's like 50 children in a class, and how is one person going to help 50 people? They can't help 50. There's too many. So then, you know, then you look stupid because you're going to a remedial class, you know what I mean? And all this stuff builds up in you, and you kind of need, you really want to be yourself at the same, you know. So this is how it slowly goes in. And then the job, and if you're late, and I ask permission for this, and you know, and it goes on and on, and yeah, and it slowly affects you. So that's enforced responsibility. It's not willing. You didn't choose that. You got given it. So what the cabal does is the cabal. I'm glad you're recording. Are you recording? Amanda?
Yeah.
Oh, magic. Then it doesn't go wasted. Is the cabal are the people that provide the environment. You see, they're very clever. They don't do all that much work. They provide the environment, and then we have to struggle through it and survive. But we think, it's our fault. So we introvert on ourselves. Are we not fast enough? We're too slow at school when you're running. You know, we're at the back. We're not intelligent as the guys in the A class, B class. It automatically invalidates, but in a subtle way. It's these little subtle invalidations all the way along.
So they provide the environment.
What you think.
Provide
the environment.
They provide it through basically total indoctrination from the beginning, from day one, right? Through things like belief systems and stuff like that. So
yeah,
they program into you I'm curious as to how they provide the environment. I mean, in my mind, it would be like everything, you know, because they've basically made the entire environment, religion, you know, like all the rules of the game.
Well, the environment is actually mechanically, it's a mechanical device. You know, it's very mechanical in its nature, like, you know, roads and streets and whatever. And there's people in, and there's businesses, this business, they call it business, goes on, and all that kind of stuff. But it's actually antisocial, but in a very subtle way. Like money causes people to hate and fight amongst themselves. The husband loses a job, the wife wants to leave him. The businessman gets stressed out, he gets overworked, too much pressure, and he goes to drink, have a drink and try and calm down. It's the environment is not really. It's far below what it ought to be. It's geared for survival. So then we always end up pitted against each other. It's an environment. There you go. It's an environment of competition, which is very bad, because competition is made to destroy the strong, not the weak. It's to put the strong up against each other. You know, I'm going to be the billionaire. I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk over everybody I can to get that Porsche 911 twin turbo. I don't give a shit about all these other effers. You know, the kind of Wall Street wolf. People that are just snorting coke all the time, and
it's the Colosseum. It's the Colosseum.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Colosseum. There you go. So it's competition, and it's also comparison. And comparison is what technology has accomplished now that we at the modern point where there's all this comparison, let's say on whatever they call that, Instagram or whatever. One person looks better, and she's always looking so gorgeous, and she's like this all the time, fantastic. And you are like half of what that person is. I feel like a piece of horseshit today, and this person's still looking good. But she's a Ford model. You know, she's pretending like she's just a remote viewer or something. She's a Ford model that just stopped modeling, you know, and bought herself Apple Macintosh, or she's on Instagram, or it's sort of people who, and then, you know, and then his opinions, and opinions are not real. Like I say, opinions do not come from a place where I come from a world of flushing toilets. I don't come from a world of Barack Obama and his lofty ideas. And my opinion is, well, like we really care what your opinion is. Opinion doesn't run the world. It's chop wood and carry water. That's what runs the world, not your opinion and what you think and okay. So the environment is set up, and so they put the playing field there, and then we have to play in the game. But of course, it's not really our. You feel like it's a bit crappy. Okay, so that's how we get sucked into identification, where I'm on this side or that person's on that side.
I just want to say that it's quite a huge step for people to disidentify with their identity and know that there's something else. I think that's like the first step of kind of freedom in a way, which is what you're talking about. You know, like you're not your body, you're not your name, you're not your face, you're not your color, you're not your whatever, you know, gender, all that. And for people to actually discover that there's something else other than that can be quite a revelation.
It is actually,
it's like, oh my God,
quite scary.
There's more.
What now? You know, it is a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, but let's just say that, like, that's why it's called similarities and differences, because you can say there's a similarity between me and these things, like my affinity for nature, or my affinity for this planet, and my affinity for the universe and other brains. And, you know, there's similarities, but there's also differences. But you're not that thing. You know, you're not defined by that thing. That's not what defines you. It's And also with the truth movement, call it that if you'd like, or Q movement. It's really, to me, the Q movement is, on the one side is identity, and on the other side is namelessness, anonymous, anon, or I'm not going to give the cop my name. Hey, the guy says, what's your name? Cop says, what's your name? And the guy's like, I'm not going to give you my name. You see, in order to win this game, we're all going anonymous, which is the opposite to identity. Give me your identity. They want your ID book, your ID card, your driver's license, your identification. And the guy doesn't want to give it to them.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. You see, so they've used identity to grab you. But it's just that it's synthetic. So when I mean identity, I mean synthetic identity, to be polite.
Yeah.
Higher up the gradient will be drop significances with, like me, not of the world of men, period. 6 of wands, goodbye, I'm out of here. So being a bit comfortable enough to not have to be in your own skin, able to handle, like, your, well, I won't actually mention that, but in a session, there was a person that I spoke to recently who actually was running 2 bodies. It happens with some beings. There's somebody, when they fall asleep, they go and they do a job somewhere else, they come back, they look here and there, you know, between 2 jobs.
Don't worry, that was public.
Yes,
that was public news, because Gene Decode, that was on Gene Decode Live, the last session. Anyway, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to say, but we know who you mean.
Yeah. Well, it was with someone that you know, Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, golly. Okay. Right. So that would be obviously you deciding, hey, you know what? I like that guy's game. I'm going to play that game. I'm going to work for that company, or I'm going to back that person, or I'm going to vote for this guy because he's a real person, and he'll look after us, or something, whatever it is. And sometimes you'll find people doing things like joining the NSRI, or helping scrub oil of penguins, or helping to do something in the environment, like cleaning beaches or whatever. And they end up with this group, and all they're joggers and runners, and they end up with in a cool crowd of people, and they feel better because they're kind of doing something, you know, with a good thing behind it, but still they're bright together, and they meet up and chat, talk about stuff, whatever. And so they join a group. So they, you know, this is kind of a natural thing that is a good thing. So you can also join stuff. Let me just read this properly, right? So you can also say, oh, I don't have any choice. You know, my parents have been Democrats forever, or liberals or something, whatever. Oh, we've always lived in a liberal family. My father, my grandfather, you know, whatever. And we fly flags of liberalism, regardless of how evil or bad it becomes. We just keep doing the liberal thing because there's no question here. And then you say to the guy, yeah, but you know, this is, you know, maybe you want to appeal to some fresh viewpoint. And he's like, oh, no, it's always been that way and it's always going to be that way. So some people choose not to
not choose.
To not choose. Yeah, they just tell me what to do.
They don't know that they're choosing to not choose.
No, yeah. So that's when they're unaware of the fact that there's any game going on at all. They're not aware of that. If you tell them there's a game, they don't know what you're talking about. There's no game here. This is serious. This is
serious business.
You know, business or money or like a chartered accountant. He doesn't know there's another game going on. He thinks he's winning the game because he's a bean counter and he'll always be paid good money and live in a big house, wear Hilton Boss suits, and you know, he's always Mr. Perfect. And then one day he has a like a midlife crisis, and he calls your telephone number. You know, it's like, really? It's like you know, you have everything. You know, you're walking around like you own the planet because they all do, and they're smoking cigars in the men's club or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, you know, you're full of ego, and now suddenly you're like this little mouse. You don't know what's going on because you hit 60, you're losing your hair, you don't look so good anymore, and your friends are buggered off, and you spend all day long inside an office auditing books, which any auditor will ever tell you is totally mindless. It's the most terrible job, auditing books, sitting there.
It is mindless.
Ticking
I
off.
Can tell you that because I did it for a while.
It's terrible, but you do get paid so much money to do it. But
it's awful.
It's terrible. Every auditor complains about how mindless it is. However, of course, you can recover money for a company like maybe 50 grand or 100 or 2 million, depending on how large the company is. So pretty large if they hire you. And then sometimes they realize they can save 2 million rand a year because of, you know, worked out discrepancies in their auditing or something. Oh, wow, you get refunded this money or whatever. And then that's why the audit is important. But we all know that that auditors, doctors, lawyers do work for the state. There is this agreement. They're written into the Gazette. So that's why they can always say that my rate is so much per hour. So they are supported by what you call the pillars of society, you know, per se.
It's true.
It's just written into the university's whatever curriculum, or you know, they get the thumbs up, and the auditors help to keep. Obviously, the government knows they're going to get their taxes because accountants always have to sign off. I mean, you all know. So how this works, there are different effects that beings give off. So if with Amanda, in your case, like let's say there are all sorts of characteristics that can persist. So let's say it can be anything that is literally perceivable is a fact. Whenever you doubt yourself, then it's not, you know, then you can't ever get anywhere by thinking that you can't trust what you perceive. So I had something written down here. Let's see where it is. I'll just flip through I wrote it down here. I've got folders for everything, really. Just find it. And
does it help to have folders?
Oh, you have to, because see, the nice thing about a folder is you can just take whatever you've written on a piece of paper. There's one that you stick the paper in. And you can just file written paper, which is better than getting onto laptops all the time. Yeah, like just a book of So with characteristics, it's things like intention.
Okay, that's
beings. Cool. So what is this? It's not my intention. I don't want to feel this way, or you know. So intention is also the thing that cause is intention.
Okay.
Something is caused is because it's intended. Nothing is caused by accident. It's never by accident. It's always intentional. So can't believe it, and then they get into trouble forever. The whole life in trouble because they never really believe that cause is intention. It never gets. It is. if there's people that die in the First World War because some asshole sat down and planned the whole fucking thing. That's why it happened. It didn't happen by accident. So, I mean, look, to give you an example, Adolf Hitler was in power already. He was sharing the power with the Chancellor. He didn't have to invade anyone. What, did he really have to invade the rest of the world to try and scoop up more Germans to come back to Germany? No, he was already in power. The Nazis were in power. He was already top dog in Germany. Why invade anybody? And besides, no one has ever today, 50, 60 years later, whatever, no one has ever, anywhere on the internet, ever heard what the plan of Adolf Hitler himself, what his plan was. Does anyone know what his actual plan was for invading endlessly? Like, what was the outcome going to be? What was the mission?
Or wasn't he planning to make an Aryan race? Like a person?
Yeah, he was planning it.
Human.
But but why couldn't you just do it in Germany? Like, why did he need to invade the whole world and invade Poland and invade France and invade England and invade here and invade? He was like wasting his time. He was wasting all his resources. He could have built and manufactured his Aryan race right in front of him. I mean, he already had improved. Germany had been improved using the Volkswagen and highways and, there's Autobahn and health and fitness and everybody. I think vegetarianism was promoted and, fasting and all these wonderful good things were already in place. He didn't have to invade the world,
But apparently he was pillaging for technologies.
Well, he got an offer. I mean, they got helped before the Second World War started. They were approached by the hybrid guys and said, "Hey, we'll clue you in. We'll help you guys out." But yeah, so he should have said, "Well, cool. It's they were the most advanced technologically anyway. They wouldn't have learned anything from the English. I mean, they didn't even have radar. They're still trying to get their radar machines to work. Like, putting up, working out how radar, that radar where it goes around and goes bleep, bleep. They were still trying to work that shit out. So, and he had the doodle bugs and all the scientists. He had the best of all the Swiss scientists and physicists, the best that Switzerland had. They were all Third Reich, and 50% of Third Reich was Swiss. It wasn't even German. It was Swiss German. He had everything. So, I mean, the rest of the world couldn't have taught him anything about technology. So why invade it? There's nothing to get. I think it was just a gold. The truth of it was they wanted to steal the gold. They wanted to steal. Yeah. So that was but they never mention it because they don't want to tell anybody that. But that's why the gold went missing. That's why they stole it. That's why they filled up all the submarines with it and went to Antarctica with it.
They put gold in submarines.
Yeah, they put gold in submarines, man. That's why they left gold behind. Remember that? They found, they were like underground. Oh, yeah, there's gold left behind. No, it wasn't left behind. It was left there as to make them look incompetent, the Germans. They were leaving it there. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it's just a silly. It just shows you that everything has an intention behind it. There's no such thing as coincidence when you're dealing with other beings. Coincidence is a good. It's a benefit. Coincidence. It's
Yeah, especially with invading beings. It's very intentional.
Right.
Very
intentional. And then the next thing is, let's see, like you get. So you have to feel like some beings drain energy around you like that. A persisting presence could be draining energy. It could be draining reality. So you feel like blank or lost or disconnected when you shouldn't, or maybe it just is like that. And you think, well, am I doing it? Or is it something that is hoping to get helped by me or whatever it is that is doing this? And often a being that's in not such good condition will have an attitude that comes up that it can't help projecting. So you take people who always getting into fight everyone, get drunk and fight in a bar. And those are people that is like, you see when they drink, You go, and you see them change. They go from this person suddenly to that person. When he had a couple of drinks in him, he starts smashing the place up. I wonder why that's happening.
Yeah.
Well, that's because their influence is always there. But it takes a little bit of alcohol, and then the veneer comes off, the sort of Mr. Nice thing. And then out comes this crazy person who's argumentative and obnoxious and likes to get into fights and whatever. And that's the attitude that's not his. It's provided by because he's drinking. So then those beings get attracted to him, because these beings also do like if you lower your awareness, they see it as an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So that's why people who take drugs end up incredibly confused, because there are other beings that like those drugs. And they might not have a body, but they definitely can vicariously latch on to you and experience that effect at your expense. Naturally, it's a esoteric subject, but I've smacked a couple of these things out of the space of people, so I know. And then the thing is with help. See, generally when you're a person that has a good heart, but you're dealing with a lot of, maybe like the world is, the environment, of course, is slightly dangerous, if not, depending where you live in the world, could be slightly or very dangerous. I mean, if you lived in some places, a bad country, you could be dangerous. You go out in the street and you get robbed in your own neighborhood in some countries. In others, you can sleep on the side of the road and nobody will bother you. It's like, wow, amazing. So, but that's the cabal that does that. So you have a lot of beings that have that. If you're let me just keep my thought. If you're a good person with a good heart and you're doing things for the right reasons, you just are obviously going to bump into beings, because sometimes it's a presence there or whatever. So now, yeah, sure, beings need help or whatever, but you must be careful. You're not going to help a being that you're not capable of assisting at this point. That is a very high skill. I had a being that hung around me that got burnt at the stake, basically.
Wow.
And he was persecuted, and he was called the witch, as a guy at the time in his life. And they pointed their bony finger at him and said, he's a sorcerer or whatever, when he wasn't. And he got burnt at the stake. And I only found that out after I got into communication with him. It took a long time to get him to communicate. They being there, but they're not communicating. You see, you gotta say, okay, let's try and communicate. Sometimes I'll just sit there like this.
But how do you know if they're a good being or not a good being if they're not communicating? How do you know?
Sorry, what's that? What's that?
So how do you know if they're a good being or not a good being if they're not communicating? There's if they're not showing you anything or talking in any way.
Yes.
How would you know?
Well, you don't. You have to wait. It doesn't matter whether they're good or bad or whatever. But if there's an effect that's undesirable to you personally, then you might feel like they might have good intentions, maybe, but they're upset or angry about something or whatever. But like this guy, it was this heavy thing, and he hated churches. He just wanted to burn them down. He wanted to burn down any church. Churches are liars. They cheat people. And he wasn't actually wrong. So I had to drive to churches in my car. I went to go hang around St. John's up the road where I live, and I went to another church, and I found myself being sucked, being attracted towards these churches, this old stone, ding dong bell outside, but quite old stuff, not the newish. So I went to all these old churches. So I was just driving around in my car. I suppose I'll go here, and then I just sat there and took out the thing and kept. I thought, I don't feel upset about this, but I feel like the being's upset about this. You see, this is not me.
That's
being
clever.
put onto my shoulders.
So you
been put
start
onto
to
my shoulders.
separate out a bit.
Yeah, I'm like, shit, man, this
Yeah.
is not so good. And you just think, that's okay. Just tell me, it's all right. The being feels like you have something that it can help itself with. Because one of the problems with this universe is failed help. It's quite a tricky business. There's a failed help aspect because beings be whatever. So that's why some people say, why am I telepathic? Well, half, 3, 4 quarters, no more, 5, 1/10 of the people aren't there. I'm not communicating. So you're not going to hear anything from them. They're blank. They don't do it anymore. It's a two-way flow. Telepathy is not a one-way. The person, if they're very empathic and they let everything out and they share everything, and maybe they're a joyous person or they're a person who's just very quick like this, very fast. Then you get that. You get it's around you and it's natural. There's only about 1/10 that people communicate, and the other 10th just don't. So you get nothing. That's also like the truth of it. And with the being here, obviously it concerns your environment. Your
it's interesting, Rob, because I think it's like I mean, because I've had a lot of these beings around, and I've sort of come to this in a way slowly, like through struggling. I've come to some of these things, but it's just really nice to sort of hear it. It is like an audit in a way. It's like
sort of taking stock. Taking.
And so what I often do is, if I'm feeling strange and it feels like maybe it's me, or I'm actually feeling sick, but maybe I'm not feeling sick, I just start to draw it, what I'm feeling, to try and pick up like a shape and a place and so I'll definitely do this work more, like where you actually really go into like a detailed process.
Yeah, and it can go on and on. So how you do it is you write. Got some coffee here. Thanks,
yay.
Mix. Yeah, they're saying yay.
Yay.
Nice.
Cool.
Can you bring me some, please?
Yeah, lekker man. Make coffee. Do you remember that advert? My favorite advert. That one with Cremora. Ek hou van my koffie in die môre. Ek roer die koffie met die Cremora. Coffee capital. The guy, this old man with all these wrinkles, this older.
Oh my God.
I must find that advert. I tell you, I wonder what it. Yes, it's good, man. It's so good. It blows your brain away. Okay, so let me just see.
So can I ask a couple of questions? Have you got time?
Sure,
how much time have you got?
No, I do have some time. I've done all my stuff for the dums for Jean and everything.
Okay.
That's all cool.
Are you actually sharing your viewing of dums and information and
yes,
what is
just what I basically get from looking at South Africa. They're all focusing on South Africa.
Yay, finally.
No. Finally,
what's actually going on?
South Africa is quite an incredible country. There is something unique about it when it comes to dums, and that is actually, we call them, people get confused. Well, not confused, but you have to distinguish. Specifically, it's not just military, underground military dums. That's different. That's what we've put there. That's our idea of, the United States government's been building dums, the cabal dums. That's different. But then you get underground mining bases. So you get underground mining and you get underground dams. And in South Africa, when I'm looking at it, there was this confusion between, not a confusion, but South Africa is actually one of the largest dams in the world. Well, why is that? So that's, so I'm looking and then I go, okay, these, because they are, it's basically, call them tunnels if you want. And the mining from a long time ago, South Africa is riddled like Swiss cheese, underneath because of the mining from 1 kilometer to 10 kilometer depths.
Yeah.
And so that was already there. So what happens when the cabal were looking for, a place to establish a proper base? Well, South Africa was the perfect place because it's
all
just
the gold
riddled.
mines,
Riddled.
Yeah.
And all of the tunnels follow the veins, the deposits.
The gold veins,
deposit of that mineral, whatever it was, it's everything, all sorts of, it's not even just gold, it's all the stuff, would follow that thing, and they would follow it all the way down into Zimbabwe, and they would keep, and that tunnel was the mining, and then you'd have the facilities, and it's very old stuff, still left, it's still there, everything's still there. It's not like they left it all behind and pissed off. This is long before the cabal even got here, and then the cabal came along and then used that for their own. It was all already there for them. It didn't have to sit and melt rock for 10 years or whatever. It was already there. And that's what makes it so unique, our country, is that we, I can say that the salt of the earth type of emotion, that emotion you get in yourself when you're South African, you sort of have that emotion that's very strong, kind of like Afrikaner, salt of the earth, Afrikaners are very, they're sort of, they define South Africa in a way. They kind of brought, it's actually part of, it's like the emotion of the land affects the people. There's these subtleties that are in a place that already exist there. And then when people absorb it, and that's why I'll die for here. So why don't you go back to Holland? No, we don't know. This is our home. This is our home. So there's a spiritual investment. You know a lot about that with like kind of Adam's calendar days and all the different people. But
I feel less identified with Afrikaners and more actually with the Black people that are here. I must say, I feel like ancient Africa, like from a long, 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 long time ago. That's how I feel like I've been around for a long time.
Okay, thank you. Oh, well, that's like the Moors.
Like I'm talking about like since the beginning of humanity sort of on Earth.
That's why they're black, because they've been here for so long. They've been here for so long that they're black skinned. If you had gotten here when they got here, you wouldn't be white either. You wouldn't, because you've so climatized eventually, especially Southern Hemisphere. If you're in a sunny spot, you'll change, after maybe, I don't know,
but don't you think skin color's more got to do with the race that you are? Like, I'm talking about like a galactic race.
Yes, it is. You're not wrong. It's actually quite clever what you've said. You actually are kind of.
I'm quite a clever chick, really.
Yeah, no, it is, because it's actually the idea that people became yellow because of some climate, and it's not really entirely true. They are. It's a bit of a dumping ground. So you're correct about that. I mean,
the Chinese were like one of the starter races. They were like one of the.
Yes, Chinese, groups. Correct.
Yeah,
you're right. They were one of the first.
Tell them about the two races of beings that were in the ground, the dwarves and
the guys. Mickey was. So down there, this was before people were around. There was no people. It wasn't a people's place yet, but that's because the ancient empire hadn't reached this galaxy yet. They just hadn't arrived here. So it was still being monitored by Galactic Federation that, you do their rounds. They know what planets are what. They sort of come around every year or so, monitor something and fly off.
So this is like pre sort of 450,000 years, like before that. Yeah.
Yes, it's before.
Because the Anunnaki were like 450,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you would call the old empire, the Anunnaki.
I just know that, no. Ancient empire has been going for trillion years.
On Earth?
No, not on Earth. They've had their own separate, they were old slave trade type nation, typical slave trade. They're not a royalty run the House of the Royals running them, high tech, but very much like kind of sort of New York City type thing, high rises, aeroplanes, sophisticated, high tech, but just ancient civilizations, very, very old. They are the people who try to take over not take over the universe, but try and establish themselves as the unbeatable entity. If no one could go up against them, you just like dodge them, whatever, that type of thing. Let's just say we weren't here, and then we came back, and the game had changed. Let's just say that. We were here, and then we left here, and then the game changed without us around realizing it. People had made a couple of clever moves. And then we came back, and then we realized that things had been moved around. So that was the ancient empire. When we were away, we change a couple of rules, make things to suit ourselves. No one was aware of it. And then you come in here and say, what the fuck's going on? Literally. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Like WTF. And then we all sit here like idiots. Like, we don't know anything. Like, what are these guys doing? Why are they doing such weird shit? What's going on here? Why would people want to do what they do? How can you? It's because they don't. It's a long thing, but so this is quite old. It's not like people think Cabal's like 6,000 years old.
But so the Anunnaki is not in your mind tied to the ancient empire, because the Anunnaki were. I know that they were initially I don't know if it's the same group as the old empire, but they were actually refugees from their planet, and they came to set up mining and slave groups here, and that's half of 450,000 years ago, somewhere around there. And then they're the ones that started the hybridization programs and stuff to set up the slave groups, but it went on for a long time, this slavery program, because they tried different beings, and some came out like that's why we have like so many different hybrids here, because it was over like hundreds of thousands of years, this Genesis project. It wasn't always benevolent, it wasn't always necessarily bad. Like, there was chapters of sort of things that happened anyway. But my point is, I still don't know quite who the old empire is. I must actually read that book. I'm not sure if they are connected to the Anunnaki.
They're not the Anunnaki. Yeah, they're not the Anunnaki.
Okay.
The ancient empire is actually the Cabal. It's artificial intelligence. It's pedophilia.
Okay.
It's like, vampirism. It's royalty, which of course we know Anunnaki got royalty in them. Yeah, King, Queen, Enki, Enlil. Yeah, okay. But no, it's fine. It's
Enki,
Onky, donkey, whatever. Okay, it's fine. But you also have
Enki will be very upset.
Yeah, and then you have cannibalism, right? It's part of ancient empire. That's why we have cannibalism on this planet. That's why we have pedophilia. Why we have all these. This is like it comes from them, but it was transported here. It's the people who thought of the idea. They didn't set up this whole show to traffic children to children's soldiers like they have in the Congo, or sex trafficker children and sex trafficking and slavery. Well, all the slavery, like this colonialism, United Kingdom Empire, and all the slavery around the world. What is the slavery, cabal, cannibalism, weird shit? Where does that come from? That's ancient empire. That stuff's been going on for a very long time. So our job is to, in the end, handle the planet, get them, boot them off, boot them out, get rid of them, and then go and help whoever else needs help out. There's lots of homework in this place. People are not going to run out of things to do.
No.
I'm just waiting for a lightning bolt. It's just I'm stuck here, so I get the luxury of saying, "Hey, go ahead, give me this." Next thing I'll be ordering cake. How many, Jack? Okay, so I don't know about. I was thinking about Anunnaki, getting back to the mining, who was doing it? I know that it has to have been somewhere around 400,000 back, because there was a lot of the Lemurian Atlantean thing happened. There's like over a 200,000 year period backwards in time, and then modern man, us, we go from like no comprehendo, meaning can't remember, forwards. Well, let's say 100,000, 50,000, 60, 50, let's say 50,000 years or something, give or take. History of 25, 30, 40,000 years. We don't really remember anything before. There's no kind of fades into sort of a gray, not quite sure. Somewhere around 400, because these guys were there. It's like ancient building, like the stuff that was left on Mars and on the moon and that kind of stuff that time, long ago. So they didn't want any disturbances on the planet. You're not allowed to be seen as messing with somebody's real estate if you're doing something. So that's just live underground, mine, manufacture everything, do everything they needed to do. And, you couldn't have them building a city on the surface, because then somebody knows they're there. I mean, that's what happened to Atlanteans and stuff. They got blasted to crap. People think, oh, it just sunk. No, it didn't just sink. Just sink like one day. They got hammered. The police, the Cabal paparazzi, which ancient empire paparazzi, saw them there and said, "Hey, this is our real estate. What are you doing here?" So they blasted them, and they got the asses kicked, and that's how they ended up in the shit. And then they ran to the South Pole, in essence, like dug in there.
The Atlanteans.
Yeah, Atlantis. Yeah,
What I heard is why it sank is that the Atlanteans were messing with their technology to such a degree that they were very much like the Cabal is today. They were experimenting with lasers, and they were putting lasers through the center of the planet to the other side. They were doing laser technology, and they were mistreating the planet, and they busted the ionosphere. There was a cloud cover around Earth, almost like a womb that was there, and they broke that cloud cover and created the disaster. That's what I heard.
Well, it's fine, because they were unethical all the way.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
became
absolutely.
so egotistical.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so they messed it up for the Lemurians and themselves and anyone else, because the ancient empire had conquered this galaxy, and they didn't know that. You see, the Atlanteans were like, why were they here? Why were the Lemurians here? They were here because they both ended up saying, well, look, here's an empty spot. Let's set up camp here. They were refugees. They came from being persecuted from other areas. They fled those areas and then resettled on a place where this looks like a pretty cool spot, This are for beings that breathe nitrogen with 3 parts, whatever. That suited who they were. So they're like, okay, we'll take a place where we can get all of some nitrogen and oxygen and argon and whatever, and we'll because that's what they had. And then of course they were not ethical. And you're right, they became egotistical, and the Lemurians hated their guts, to be frank. They see them as the reason, why everything was getting a fuck up. So the ancient empire police saw them and said, "You're not allowed to be here." But they had atomically subdued the galactic empire. They said, we need more space for our jail planets. Can you just... So they just nuked the spot and then pulled in here with all of their power and their huge amounts of super powerful, like kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger, to smash everything. I don't care.
Yeah.
They love that kind of shit. Atomic bombs, whatever, this and that. That's why we got all this UFO stuff. As soon as we had gone atomic, it was just like this massive influx of like monitoring and drones flying everywhere, like a tic-tac. That's no UFO. It's a drone, man. I look to see what's going on. These little drones that they've spotted flying in the middle of the night that are going like 250 kilometers an hour and then just flying to the sea. There's the one actually that they took from a drug spotting a Mexican drug spotting infrared spotter plane that took off from the airport at night, and then noticed that there was a blip on there. And they said, hey, there's another airplane here. We're supposed to be free to lift off. And here's this other thing flying around. What's that? The tower said, we don't know what it is. And then they flew in a circle to try and see, who it actually was, because the tower couldn't tell them. But they switched on all their infrared cameras. You can see as clear as day. And then there you see this little drone thing flying.
Wow.
Super quick.
Wow.
Flying, and they followed it with the zoom camera, because they've got that to spot the drug planes at night. So they've got this huge zoom lens, and they're filming this thing in infrared. Eventually travels across, flies straight through the airport, which is where it wasn't supposed to be, and then flies across these supermarkets and shops or whatever, and then flies towards the sea, the ocean, because it's very close to the ocean, this airport. And then it flies into the ocean at the same speed it was flying, at 100, 200 k's an hour, and it just goes into the water.
Wow.
And it comes out slightly above the water and slightly below the water, and then it splits into two. Weird. And
Wow.
And it's on YouTube. There's a guy, that's a professor with a bow tie, saying, he was analyzed, and he said it's impossible. And he said if it comes out of the water, because the color, if it's black, is hot, it shows you that there's heat attached to it because it's black. It's like a negative. It's in reverse.
Interesting.
So the thing was hot. Even after going up into the water and out, it was still the same temperature, just as hot as it was going down. But I don't know where we got.
Anyway,
meandered.
We meandered from the dams and the gold mines. And
it could have been an Anunnaki, though. Just so you know, it could have been them. It could have been. I must just take another look. I have to sit and shake the
shake the area
to get more on it specifically, but way of being that doesn't suit it, or it's upset about too many rules or whatever has been imposed on it in some manner or whatever it is, and then feeling like they always just have to get revenge, or like this being always wanted revenge. All it wanted to do was save me, was help me from not being too churchified, or whatever, or too permissive, and explaining that something that's good can be used so just like that very quickly for evil, and people will still follow it. It's the same old kind of Salt Lake City type thing, where they meant it has good things and then it gets used for bad, and people just end up doing what they say. The guys with the long beards, the church bosses, or whatever you call them, whatever, I'm a so-and-so. So then they follow what the leader says. So then in the end, I realized that why I was so stuck. And then I said, because I was very much into that kind of mode of, there was a similarity enough between him and I. And then I said to him, now that I understand you and I can see what has happened to you, and that I had to be very compassionate towards this being, because I realized it's like, shit, And then I said, well, if you want to hang around me, it's fine, because you have the right to, because Kabbalah been suppressed in this area for a long time. Put it that way. The ancient empire suppressed a lot of beings and put them into a position where life's not worth living anymore. That type of, some of them are just, they've refused, they still want to resolve things. They still want to, I don't know, it's like a long story or whatever. You just have to go with what the being tells you. Even if it doesn't make sense, you said it's okay. And then you find out that, well, would you prefer, are you going to murder forever? You can be a murderer forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, until eventually you just don't feel like murdering anymore because it's boring. So I'd rather become I'd rather save. I become savior and save people instead of murdering them. He starts to save people. He becomes a murderer, and you get these opposites that people do. Like they'll become I'm a drug addict, and I do show middle finger to everybody, and then I become a hardcore savior, of, spiritual leader. So there's crazy act, nasty things, and suddenly the exact opposite. And then, I don't know, it's like you get people that go from one extreme to the other extreme, and you can't find a middle ground with them at all. It's a bit weird. You have some people like that. It's a bit strange. So you just have to look at where the being is, because sometimes the being feels like it can never stop being upset, or never stop stealing your space. Never, like, because there's a compulsion there. So it can be anything. That's why you have to be prepared for anything, even if it's strange or weird.
Yeah.
Because often the effect is a weird effect. It's a strange effect. It's the weird and the strange. It's the invisible, the inexplicable. So what? So be invisible then. You want to be invisible, be invisible. It's fine. I don't care. You really have to be...
what I'm seeing is it takes quite a bit of practice. I think the spiritual hygiene is like a real skill at the moment, because we are kind of moving into a galactic space. And so we're having to turn on all these galactic skills now. And
yes.
Like some of what I've been through is that there's implants that appear as beings, and they're sending you voices and they're sending you images and impressions as if they are something. And it's actually not. It's actually an implant with a broadcast. So, it's like there's lots of different things, it's just, I'm learning like really how to distinguish between all of that and how to, so when it's not a being, but there's like a dark being, like a cabal, Luciferian agenda or something behind that implant with a voice technology.
Yes.
Then it's pretending to be something. It's pretending to be a voice or an unhappy voice, but it's,
that's another kind of influence.
Yeah.
That's not the same. You saying something
that's
else.
Another thing. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I have something. That's the third thing that I had. I had Sims, the rights of a being, and brackets. Now, we're going to do the brackets, but I have to deliver brackets to somebody.
Okay.
And then that will help with, let's say, if anyone had let's say viewpoints or ideas, like you get beliefs, fixed beliefs, the pattern, blah, 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 blah. Tony Robbins rattles off like he's the only man who ever discovered it. Just because he bleaches his teeth and goes to gym every flipping day, it doesn't mean that he's the only guy in the whole universe who knows about, fixed beliefs and patterns. It's like, yes, these people think that they rule the universe.
Yeah.
Because they've got some little simplicity. So the thing here, other people say, oh, you must find a new routine. You must find something to distract yourself with. Listen to orchestral music when you feel like, something like getting drunk. No, change, do something. Over here, clap. There's some new thing to break the thing. No. Okay. It's just all, that's ridiculous. What you do is you do brackets, because brackets means that you work on the flows of yourself. It's to it helps you with a list of 70 things, like attention or perception or this or that, and you just run through it without thinking, and then it helps you with any sort of, if you want to use the word programming or fixed idea, should something have happened that didn't happen is a valid question. Should something have happened that didn't happen? Was a goal unrealized? Oh, well, that guy's upset. Or was a goal unrealized? Yeah, I set up this place and I made tea and Michael was just about to arrive or whatever, and then he didn't arrive. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm not upset, a big goal or whatever. No, you got upset because you had this goal, this idea, and it, was a goal not realized. It's like, well, yeah, a goal wasn't realized. Actually quite upsetting. Oh, well, no one ever, it's always, everybody says like, suck it up, maybe it's not true, it's just like things in life that do actually hurt people. And then they have to say, oh, it doesn't hurt me, I'm tough. It's not true. So the thing is, it's like, there's a lot of aspects, and that's what brackets helps you with, and also where people should have helped and didn't, or when you try to help somebody and feel that maybe you couldn't, or, something like that, especially, like in South Africa, it's very, prevalent, because you can't be anything. And I think I mentioned that to you, but you can't be anything in South Africa. You can't be white, you can't be black, you can't be Indian, you can't be colored, you can't be this, you can't be that, you can't be anything, because as soon as you something, then you offend everybody else. Because there's something that the Indians did, or the white people did, or the Afrikaners, or the English, or the coloreds, or as the Sutus, or the Twanas, or the vendors, or the Zulus did this to the vendor. Eventually, there's nothing you can be. They call it us rainbow, but I mean, what are we all, just a rainbow? But yet, all of the arguments and discrepancies and mind control is all about what you can't be. It's not about what you can be. You can be honest, but you can still be guilty. No, but you did this, the Afrikaners. Well, I'm not my parents. I didn't do that, but your ancestors are, relax, I'm not like that. I'm a nice person. I help people. I carry their groceries. I work for charities, or, you can't, if you can't be anything, then you just leave the country. You go, oh, well, I'll just go to Australia because nobody cares about it. Yeah, I'll go somewhere else.
I'll blend in.
Yeah, I'll leave here, and you guys can fight about who did what to who and who's wrong. And I mean, it's complicated but that's like you said, it's MK Ultra, it's programming, it's fixed ideas and beliefs, and it's part of the political. It's part of George Soros and Rockefeller. And Rockefeller wrote that he gave the ANC a $70 million check. Nobody even knows that. He wrote out a check and pulled it off and gave them $70 million.
Wow.
Yes,
yeah.
Because they didn't have any money when they wanted Nelson and needed to do an advertising campaign, and they needed places to stay and needed suits. They needed to suit themselves up and get ready for an election, for them eventually to get elected into power. And in America, the way that they do business is, oh, I'll back you, I'll sponsor you, like they do with the campaigns. And he said he has $70 million. So he knew they were going to win. But in exchange, what did Rockefeller get in exchange? David, what did David get in exchange? He's always well,
you got South Africa. He got South Africa.
He did get South Africa. What he got was, I'll give you $70 million. They stayed in hotels, ANC. If you do the research, it's all paid for. Nelson flew all over the world and met all these people. Everybody had to pay for the flights and had to pay all the stars to shake his hand and all the bills.
Apparently he was switched, hey? He wasn't the same guy that went into prison.
It's not the same guy.
No.
It's not the same guy. Yeah. The guy that, and I know I've met his wife. I've met Nelson Mandela. I was invited to a function long ago. I was doing a job for the Spanish consulate in Cape Town, and then the King and Queen of Spain flew in from Spain, and they wanted to have a big kind of I don't know what it was, like a get together with Nelson and his wife and all these politicians, and I was like, oh well, I don't know. But then because I was doing work for the Spanish consulate, they said, hey, like, why don't you come to the King and Queen's dinner. What do you call it? Not a dinner. What do you like a
buffet?
Like catering, like
who knows?
Yeah, like a
like,
something.
I know what you mean.
I've still got the invite. The King and Queen invites you to a beautiful evening with Nelson, his wife, and a whole lot of other important people. Whatever.
Wow.
Fine. So then they said, would you like to come? I said, yeah, cool. Let's go. So they sent me the invite, and I went there, and special went to Kirstenbosch, and all the cars were there, and we went up to this King and Queen, met them. How's it? Cool. Like, I didn't really know who they were. They're good people. Thank you for inviting me. And everybody was there. Nelson, his wife was there. Buthelezi was there. I actually cornered Buthelezi and sort of started to ask him all these questions. Interrogate.
Interesting.
Just walking around like normal people, and some chief who ran like 50 tribes, some big tribal guy. I don't know who he was. But I kept all the business cards, but then somebody went through my stuff in storage, and some of the stuff I must have lost, but I still think I can find it. But I was taking all the cards. They keep giving you their cards, everybody, and then they give you the card and they run away because I don't want to talk to you, Just whatever. But they're just average people, and you could see it's not, because Winnie knew he wasn't the same person, so it's like divorced him, and he was horrified by her. I mean, she's a murderer, so you don't want to hang out with a murderer. I mean, you can imagine. He's like, I don't think so. So he was like, he was out of there, man. He was like, you go that way and I'll go this way. You hang out with EFF and I'm going to go and have my steak and chips over here and chill out. I'll find some nice woman from, that lady he was with.
Grassa Michelle.
Yeah. I think she was the real savior, not him. I think she was the coolest. She
was
the humanitarian. Yeah, she was the real deal. He was just a PR person. He was just a Rockefeller PR stuff. Hey? Yeah, I won't. And then, so what Rockefeller did was he gave them a seven, and I think that I was connected with intelligence in South Africa. So I found this out. It's not a remote viewing. This is from intelligence that investigated everything. Is in return for the money, because he knew they were going to win. So it was a safe bet for him. It was no gamble. Is he got the media rights for South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Because, advertising, American products, American lifestyle. And then Channel O came on instantly, 24 hours a day. And it was this like rap music with this gold chain swinging and the champagne and all of the rap music for years and years and years and years. And eventually became rap, became hip hop. And it was Channel O all the time. And then it was American products and American media, American movies, American, just everything American really. Yeah. So
cool.
He wanted the rights. So anyway, but with this, just to tell you, so you kind of got the exercise. You let me know how.
Yes, it's very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
I've got a question, Rob. The beings. So the beings, can they be alive? So in other words, beings that visit you out of body that are alive on the planet right now. So the same process applies.
Yes, they exist in the illusions that they can't change. Call them illusions. Physical universe is a persistent illusion. You sitting in a persistent illusion that you can't change right now doesn't mean that you can't in the future, but it just means that we are locked into reality. And the only difference between you and a being is that the guy's got no body. That's all. He's basically bodiless, but still in a gravity situation.
And persisting presences, can they also be alien presences? Aliens.
I found that most
positive
of them,
and negative. Sorry.
Yes, you don't really get aliens once you drop the body, because what's an alien?
Once you drop what? Sorry.
The body.
What's an alien without a body?
Yeah.
It's just a being.
Yes.
It's just a being. Hey, what's going on? It's from a space opera civilization. The spacecraft blew up and we all died, and it wasn't my fault. It was the other guy, and he started swearing or whatever. Okay. Or maybe he lost his temper, or maybe you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe it just happened, because accidents happen. There are people who get knocked over by a bus by accident, or they don't realize what they're doing, or maybe something goes wrong. There is a risk to being human, or humanoid as in alive, organic, no matter how many med beds you got, maybe you get splattered. It happens. But so there aren't any aliens when they drop the body. That's why there's this whole thing. Oh, the Draco are so intelligent. They're not. Who says they're intelligent? Why are they more intelligent than we are? I mean, I can slap one through the face. I think I'm afraid of a reptilian. I'm not afraid of a reptilian.
No, they're just brutes. They're just brutes. They've got brute strength.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't last very long either.
No, it's not.
They're strong, but they don't last. So if you stay, then they normally run out of energy.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's nothing. I mean, the telepathy is automatic. It's not even, I mean, it's just there. So you're communicating to the guy. He knows you're there. The thing about reptilians is they're hybrids. So they're not like, you know, a dragon dragging his wings behind them all day long. You know, that's, yeah, I mean, it's a hybrid. It's humanoid. It's humanoid, reptilian, humanoid. It's a mix. It's a blend. You are, and they have got reptilian, they look like they've got all these features, but they're still humanoid, still arms, legs, everything else. And they're just bigger than we are. They're like 9 foot. Some of the one that I spoke to was 9 foot, the Pentagon. It's like an ambassador, a level-headed, very sane, super bright being. But when you can see when you can see into somebody's mind or into their space, then whatever intelligence they have, you have that same intelligence because you're duplicating, you're seeing it. Yeah. So now, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you're so intelligent. Well, so am I. Or, you know, nothing. Chop wood, carry water. Everybody does it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify here so I understand the types of presences that we're talking about. So we're saying basically it's human or humanoid presences. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, you often will get images of when the being was humanoid, or if they've been left out of time and they feel like they no longer exist. But you get generally a kind of a humanoid. They could communicate that. They might, you think, well, what is it about churches that is upsetting? Why do you roam around, for this or that reason or whatever? And eventually you find out that there was a grief incident.
Okay.
Grief, pain, stress, loss, heavy grief, pain, trauma, something. Then you realize, oh, okay. And so,
okay.
So sometimes.
So the humanoid being would have lived on Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And or in a similar civilization, but generally the beings that are stuck here and feel like they can't leave are still this let me just get this.
They have things that are unresolved.
Unresolved, and are too. They're not up to being able to live life again. They can't take that. They can't participate in that kind of thing anymore. They feel like they've had it with it. They've had it with being alive. They can't. It's not too risky. Satan or whatever.
Okay, so now we resolve it, let's say, with the being. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say the being is now comfortable. What do we do at that point?
You read him his rights. You read him his rights. You say to him, you have the right to your own sanity.
Yes.
You can change your mind. You do have power of choice. You're not just enforced. There's been rules imposed over beings for trillions of years, rules of what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do. And then you get people that come along and suppress them. And beings get suppressed. I mean, evil suppresses beings. That's what it's doing. It squashes you into a box and says, there's no way, you can't, you don't own anything. You're not, whatever. The list of things
Okay, so now we've read that the 3 rights to the being and explained it if required.
That's correct.
And then what happens? And then what's the next step?
The next step is they can either stay or leave. So they can either stay and feel like they have to, but in the whole idea is that if you feel that you want your sovereignty and you want to be able to have a clear space, it's the space that's got to be cleared around you, your own space that you create, you make. It's like a God-given space. You make You create space. You don't just get given it on a plate and say, well, here's 3.5 square centimeters of space. You'll have to use that. No, I don't want to fit into a matchbox. I want to be able to spread myself out. I want to be able to experience life in every way that it's manifested. And there's life outside of the physical that's still ethereal. So you get ethereal worlds. You know, that thing that you remember that it's a lion on behind you, Amanda. I posted that there was a tiger on fire. I think, Diane, didn't you tell me about a tiger that was on fire?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So I posted that thing and I wanted to put something on it. Is that you can see the lion is in the physical, and then the other part of it is the ethereal body. Is another part. There's a picture of a lion, and then what happens is it cuts off, and then the other 50% of the lion's body is not in the physical; it's in the ethereal. It's like done with an ether. It's an energetic body, right? So that's just a different type of universe where things are not ridiculously solid. So now, if you look for the picture on the group chat. Next, the group chat of that picture of that tiger that was, on the lion. Sorry.
Yes, lion, yeah.
So is it on the group chat?
It's on ultraviolet.
Oh, it's on ultraviolet. It's for you. Yeah, it's on there.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'll have a look.
And you look at that, because that's what we're headed towards. That's the whole idea. Is you don't have to be alive to exist, or neither alive nor dead. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So was there something you wanted to ask?
Yes. No, I'm trying to just understand the whole process, okay, for various reasons. So now we say that they can leave or stay, preferably leave. Okay, I would prefer that, obviously.
Sure, cool.
Now, if they say, well, where must I go? What must I do?
I would send them, what you do is you tell them that they need to go back to their group. So there's a being always has what's it called? Associations, affiliated with certain other beings, associated with other beings. There's another word too, associated, affiliations, alliances. So that means you've got to understand that power of choice is a big thing. The right to your own sanity is a big thing. Because then you say to the people, you can change your mind. You can be upset forever. You can be in grief forever or whatever. But you've understood. You've been compassionate enough to realize that the compulsion that the being was having around you was just to be maybe to be understood or to be recognized. Yeah. And then, like, things would have improved up to a point, because now you're communicating with that being now.
Yes.
You've established a communication line when there wasn't one before. Okay. It's just a compulsion before. And then, now this is, and so you say, you just tell the being to go back to their group, or to go back to what Jean calls the central. Even the center of the galaxy is good enough. The center of this galaxy, they go to galactic central. You just tell them to go back there, and because ancient empire has been blasted off, been chased off away from this space. So you can go to the galactic central, and he can redecide what he feels he wants to do with his existence, because he needs to get a breath of fresh air. And he doesn't have to be stuck on this planet because of anger, resentment, or revenge, or or because he could have lost people he loved or whatever. People can get quite hurt by just feeling it. It's upsetting. I mean, you do realize that when you die, that you don't die. You can't die. You can't. You blow you're still there. Yes. But you also, they can get so
overwhelmed
and angry and annoyed so you kind of resolve that, and then you tell them to go to galactic central. That's it. And then you just intend it, and then they think, okay, well, okay, cool, and then they've been understood. Now you've done something for them, and then off they go.
Okay.
And then there might be another bee after that, and another one after that, and another one after that.
Yes.
But you'll also find that once you've cleared the area, you will spot them much, much quicker than before, even for someone else. So it's a good practical erudition if you did it on yourself. If it's maybe not something that you have around you, but maybe some other people do. And then you're able to recognize if something's like sometimes you're in the room and you're talking or whatever, and maybe with somebody, and then suddenly the whole mood changes.
Yes.
What just happened?
Yeah.
Like it just changed, like this sort of gray cloud.
Misery, a misery cloud.
Yeah, so then you just say, okay, maybe sometimes there's a being in the room or whatever. And also if you do remote viewing, like I found, beings get attracted to you because you are full of good energy. Most of the time, the loss of energy is the most upsetting thing. If a being loses energy, it makes them very cross. They lose beingness. Beingness is energy. They lose that beingness, that personal power they have to, the willingness to be creative. They lose that energy, and that gets upsetting. So obviously you just have to check the energy levels and just check that if you go somewhere and come back, you don't, because some beings imitate you and then they're trying to help you solve problems. All you want is, if you have guides, like, or whatever, then they're there to help you. You work together with them. They teach you things and they help you. Otherwise they're not a guide. They're a couch potato.
Yeah.
They must help you.
Okay. So what about beings? Because I have a lot, or I used to, not so much anymore, but a lot of beings that were, for instance, in a battle. So in a war zone, So the being passes and then they're in shock. When they pass, they're in shock. So, and if lots of beings die all at the same time, then I'm often called there to come and help the beings, okay? But I never really quite understood what I was supposed to do or why I was supposed to do it. But I used to just try and explain to them that they've now passed, and then I would try and send them to the God light. That was how I managed it. So would it be a better idea in those kinds of circumstances, once I get them a little bit through the shock, which takes a bit of time, to then ask them to go to the center of the galaxy or the galactic central? Will they understand that if they are Christian or Muslim or whatever the war happens to be, the group of beings happen to be, what their religious belief is?
Well, yeah, it's quite tricky because the religious belief, most of the stuff, it's our conversation. So I will say you must go to the, would say, if you feel that you are, so that you're saying if someone's died, right?
Yes, I have a lot of people I work with who've passed.
Yes, you do.
Who are busy passing, maybe.
Yeah, that's not easy what you're describing now, because the beliefs that a person has when they die, they still believe in those beliefs. And sometimes the cabal, and something that I can't even mention on main YouTube media, whatever, is that they have the idea like they've got a report in. And so
sometimes they're terrified because of religion. They think they're going to hell. They don't want to go to hell. I also have it, Diane. I've had it a lot. I have to where they somehow, someone who's died or whatever, and I just just do a whole teaching. Just give a whole teaching, like what the options
Yeah.
are, and like spend a bit
It's
of
just,
time.
yeah.
It's difficult
Because
though if you're dealing with like a mass group of people that have now passed suddenly, and you're trying to deal with multiple
well, you just
beings being
understand
shot.
something. Yeah, just understand that you're not from this universe. You're not from the physical universe. You didn't come. The universe didn't give birth to you or anything. I mean, God created. God, but reorganized creation. We also helped. It's like you're not going to do something. You don't have all things are mutual cooperation and endeavor. They're not. It's not one. It's just me. I decide, and then it's always me deciding. It's not, because you have big beings that support understanding in this universe. So understanding's got to be supported. Can't be supported by one guy. By one. It's why you have. Light workers, angels, big beings, whatever. I don't know. We'll just use the word big beings because and then they support understanding, which is required to exist in this universe and any other universe. That's why you've got a conscience. That's what conscience is. If you have a conscience and you do something that's unethical, you think, actually, I did something wrong by mistake. Especially if you've got power.
Yes.
And then you must use that power. And you think, oh dear. So you see, the fact that you have that means there are rules. You see.
Well,
So
they're self-inflicted
they worship
rules.
materialism.
They are your own values and ethics and beliefs.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But ethics applies to everyone, because thou shalt not do this to this person if thou does not want it to happen to thou. Yeah, thanks very much. I wouldn't want that to happen to me either. Okay, fine. Well, if you're good with that, then it means that we share a common standard of what is considered minimal destruction, something that is pro-life or pro-existence, and other stuff is very nasty. And Cabal have broken those rules. They think they can keep going forever by not, so obviously they're a bit crazy. But so there are rules and things that, ethics is not for someone with a physical body now, is it? Actually, subject of ethics is really for beings, not for bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It's a spiritual erudition. It's a reason. Ethics are reason. In fact, like that say, ethics are reason itself. Reason is required. You won't survive being your full out creation, because we understand that the Meat Body Project is very low for us. It's low for Amanda. It's low for you. It's low for me. It's a lower down. It's a very, very low gradient, because our mission is just to get beings out. So when without bodies, it's much easier to handle and manage a situation than it is with something that gets knocked and bashed and bruised and sore and achy and I've got a pain in my neck because I slept wrong and you know what I mean. I got a tooth that's something wrong with a tooth, and an eye goes funny, and my head's got a headache. It's not easy. It's a very low level of existence. It's very finite, and so we are actually beings from a higher universe. We're not even from this universe. We came here to help God. That's the truth of it. God needed help. God's not from his universe either. He's like, hey, if this stuff's out of control, it's gone too far. These people are crazy. There's people there that are doing very bad things, that are ruining my creation, and I'm pissed off. God's pissed off, and God wants his shit back. That's what I told him. And so he contracted in a lot of us to come here for no other reason than to help get us unstuck, because Cabal, the ancient empire, which is really what the Cabal is. The Cabal is not some organized group. It's a larger empire that has been running things their way and using, not very unethical for a long time. And so obviously now we're here to help. We whatever. I hope that it helps with the groups. It's not every being is recoverable if they feel that they can, if they have the choice, if they have these three rights and they realize they actually exist, because some beings don't realize that they have rights. They do. There's also laws and rules between beings as well. There's a whole echelon of creation above that's where beings have right. There's standards and ethics. You can go as far as you want to go. If you want to be a superpower being with superpower and incredible speed, and you're dealing with megatons per microsecond, basically. So if you want to be really powerful, really fast, and a person who assists creation well, I mean, in general, then you have to be highly skilled, knowledgeable, very aesthetic. You have to, that's something that some beings will pursue, and some beings will never pursue that. You have existence is displayed in as many ways as decisions can be made, believe it or not.
Yeah,
so
I can believe that.
So then you're dealing with so much creation in so many different ways that that there isn't just creation like in the physical universe only, and that's all there is. There's nothing else. There's plenty, mate. Plenty out there. Much more than what people think.
Okay, and then I have another question. The persisting presences, can they also be animals? Or is it only humanoids?
Yeah, well, animals is actually Mickey's expertise. I did an application on her, and she recovered. She was able to recover really like the higher self, the main of beings. The only reason why beings are split between one thing and another is because it's quite a dangerous place. This earth is not, it's not that simple, as you can see. I mean, look at what the Bible says. It's warning you every second of the day. Every verse is like, watch out for this. Don't worry about that. Be careful about this. Ooh, that's dangerous. It's not saying, hey, go for a walk on the beach and buy a soft serve ice cream. It's not that simple.
Yeah, it's a war manual.
It's a war, it's hello.
You're right.
It's like, it might just get your ass fried. It's dangerous. This place is crazy, unpredictable, weird, strange, whatever. And so she's the one who's an expert at that. And the reason why I say is because she truly is, because when I had to approach her, I was kneeling down. I had to send a message that I was arriving and everything else. And I did this session on her for a few days, and it just that's the area with the animals, and to me that's just, if I was to say something, it would just ruin it. You can ask her about it. Remember I said to you last time, she's the one that specializes in that area and has done, as a being, she specialized in that area. So she's very, very proud of her accomplishments. So she will tell you everything that exists has to be created. It's a lot of work. People think, you just like snap your fingers and stuff arrives. And no, it's not like that at all.
People believe that in every area of life. They always look at everything and say, oh, well, that's easy. That's simple.
Oh, it's easy.
Until they have to do it themselves. And then
exactly.
It's not quite as simple.
Yeah, it's exactly.
So this exercise shows us differentiation. So then you can relate better to the being, and you can, then start the conversation basically. And and then it's a process.
Encourage them to communicate.
Yes.
If there's nothing coming from the being, but you can feel the presence, they're not communicating. And that's not good enough. So you say, listen, you're here and I'm here. I know you're there. So why don't you just talk to me?
Yes, I had this with a little boy the other day. And it was soon after the incident with the children that were being kept captive. And I thought maybe the little boy was part of that group, but where later was pointed out that perhaps he wasn't part of that group, he was part of the duns, because the
Okay.
children in the DUMs don't talk, apparently, according to one of the people on the group that deals with children in the DUMs. So
Yes.
would this process have worked if the child had come from the DUMs?
When a being's attached to the body, you know, when you're attached, right, you've linked into the endocrine system, and now you a lot more physical than you were before. Let's say, because you human. Okay, let's say, or man, you entered the realm of man.
Okay.
So now, okay, you're not of the world of men, then you enter the world of men. You're the world of men. Okay, magic trick. So now the thing is that here you are. Now, if you have a being like that, because I've seen one of those beings, I've seen a being like that before. I've seen them, all those kids and stuff. They don't look like we look. They look like they've been, they look like kind of albino type children. You know what I mean?
Very.
So then then it becomes difficult because the threat of it's quite difficult. You actually have to keep them in an environment with exactly the same beings that you have to keep them together in a group. You can't separate them because they need to be amongst, they feel like they're at home in some way. And then you have to keep them in an environment like that. And you have to, and then you have to educate them because they're not educated. You'd have to, I'm not talking about like, I don't know what word you would use, like humanoid education. You have to get them a spiritual education. You have to have, there are beings beings on this planet that know what to do. They know they actually know how to fix them, believe it or not. There is a secret group that exists in this world. There's a group. See, that's what ultraviolet is. There are beings in this world that are not from here, that are doing some work here, right?
Okay.
And they know it's a very tough place, whatever. And they know so their whole point is that they are creating this. Those are the people that are responsible to make this movement produce a result to get. It's called freedom from. The action is freedom from. Now, even those beings, those children, it's the same thing. You have to have actually quite very good abilities in order to actually help them. You have to, because now it's like a human being that is everything's about survival. They are very subdued, very suppressed, very. That's why adrenochrome doesn't really work with cloning underground. It works with real humans. They need that people from adrenochrome works best with real people that are grown, normal people in the world. That doesn't work with underground based children properly. It doesn't work very well. Maybe you can first generation or something, but you still have to give them sunlight and everything else. You have to have a certain combination of things in order to keep a person, the rudiments of the person at play. Otherwise, you get a degraded version of that achrome stuff. It doesn't really have that. They're very, I don't know. I'd need to look a bit closer because you're asking me something about what's in their mind. So now I want to go into their mind. See.
Yes. Well, this
I had to go and have a look.
Yeah, he didn't want to talk at all. He visited quite a few times in that week.
Yeah.
In fact, daily, and a number of times, sometimes daily. But he didn't want to talk, and then he disappeared. It wasn't, I don't know if he just wanted to be with someone or was listening, or I'm not sure, because of the other children, or if he was perhaps a brother of one of the other children. That also crossed my mind. I wasn't, or if it was one of those children sitting in that room, I wasn't quite sure. But so therefore the question, because somebody mentioned, on our group that if he didn't talk, it's possible that he was actually from the Duns. So, I wasn't quite clear on if he was or wasn't, but I just wanted to ask the question so that I knew. So we shouldn't go through this process if it's a child from the Duns. If we can visually see definitely that it's a child from the Duns, I know how they look. So then we won't go through this process is really my question.
Well, not on a remote view, you wouldn't. Not if something has been remote viewed from a distance. If you're a remote influencer, you can do it. If you want to do that, I can do remote influencing, so then you would do that. You would concentrate, but that's, No,
I don't really want to do that. But my question is, if they visit me, so if they come, like this little boy came to visit me, and he didn't talk, so do I go?
That's fine. He doesn't have to talk. No, well, it's telepathic. So
yes, but telepathically he wouldn't talk. When I say talk, I mean he just shut off. He didn't want to.
Well, if he's there for a reason. Yeah. And so if he's there for something, then there's something that he either wants you to duplicate, in other words, really, really understand and acknowledge, or whether, or if it's just the fact that he wants to know that you can see him, or that whatever it is, and you endeavor to assist.
Yeah, the fact that he's been seen, the fact that he's been seen by you and then reported, to others is like, it's a huge thing. It's a huge deal, and then there's a whole chain of events that come.
Exactly. It's just, you go for the basics. You go for the basics of what, because nothing comes into your space if you cannot, that you can't actually do something about. I come from a group of people that belief that do by action. So you either do it or don't do it. It's like Yoda, do or don't do. It's not like some strange thing. So if
don't try,
try and do it. So if something is in your area and it's attracted to you or it comes to you, whatever the case would be, then fine. Then you just handle it and you get into communication with it, whatever, and you find out what it's doing or not doing, and what the attitude is, if there's something or whatever it is, or whatever, it might be quite delicate, fine points. And then what it does is it resolves the situation, and then you wait for it, because remember, you're doing something telepathically as well. So you just you wait to see the image that the being gives you back and says, oh, I thought I was stuck in this situation, I had to do this forever, or I didn't know how long. Like this one being was very nasty, remember, and I said, well, you can't do that forever. You're eventually going to get bored of it. You know what I mean? You can't just be pissed off forever. I mean, how you just go on, eventually, fuck, whatever. Yeah. You're going to change your mind at some point, you see. So, and then it's like, so you actually that's part of the rights. That's why the rights are quite clever. And then, of course, this stuff is kind of copyrighted by me. So I keep forgetting, but I have to. It's for you guys to pilot, and then for the other ultraviolet people to pilot.
Okay.
With Amanda, just sort of checking to see if people have the idea of it, and then to just see. I don't know how many people will want to do it or not, but I just want. If somebody feels it's of use, then you can do it, and then and then we'll see how it goes or what comes of it or whatever. And it also assists you to communicate to a being without it assists with that being able to trade imagery with the being, trade imagery and experience, because often you have to be willing to experience what they've experienced, this sort of thing. But obviously you can't it's very rare that something will be around you with an evil purpose, genuinely evil purpose, because it's genuine evil. Well, that generally sometimes exists because this is a funny thing, but the suspicions of people, if they have, the Tokolosh arrives because the people who live in Tokolosh country are so invested in that witch doctory that when they attract those beings. So you've got to, that's quite a bit of a complicated situation there. Yeah. Then you say, well,
you're so scared of us, we have to show up to make
exactly
your fears come true.
Exactly. And then it's like poltergeist,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, the person who believes the person gets hectic by poltergeist, generally there's something in them that they haven't quite, there's something around there that's putting that platform.
Yeah.
It's like an association with them somehow, and then they get that phenomenon occurring, like a person who might be a heavy, let's say, like something, and then they feel like the devil's running after them because they've read all about the devil. Can do devil, worship, Satan, whatever. And I'll walk into Satanist church and I'll sit in a chair and I'll fart and say, what's going on? I know I've seen people on a Ouija board. I'm not joking. I can't understand, but I'm just saying, what's the plan? I won't be scared at all. I won't walk in there. Oh, when I walk out, there'll be this dark being following me. I'm like, you guys are up to shit, man. Like when was the last time you helped somebody? Where you just sit here and play with a stupid board and screw around with skulls and candles and stupid fucking stars and crap. Like you're antisocial, basically. You're looking for some, what's the kickback? Like, what are you guys getting out of it? The Church of Satan and all this crap. It's like, well, so, what you're going to do? You're just going to, where's, what are you getting from it? You're just trying to be different. You're trying to be like, whatever. But obviously, you're dealing with insanity there. So
total.
You see, so those people
they've lost their way. They've lost the line.
They're so screwy that you think, oh no, you're not really sane. You're a bit kind of mad. So you can't appeal. You can't even give them a hard time. They'll probably look at you and think, you probably, I don't know. I don't know what would happen, but I'm not afraid of that kind of crap. You have to be very, not afraid of it. It's all nonsense. I mean, I'm not saying it's not evil out there. I'm just saying that Church of Satan. Now, they have churches of Satan, like proper legitimate ones. If they have one in a shop in Cape Town, that I'm talking about those sorts of people, not that child.
Yeah. In Rosebank, we got a big one.
Yes, like to the Church of Satan. Whatever. They're just trying to be clever, But they're very very low in vibration. Those beings are this far away from never ever having a body ever again. They can't even. They're stuck in a tiny fraction of life. They can't go above that, and they can't go below. They're stuck.
There's a brilliant book called The Red Lion, and it's about this guy who's in search of the elixir of eternal life, and he's not ready for eternal life. But he wants it so badly. So eventually he finds this alchemist who's got the elixir of eternal life, and he kills the guy for it and drinks it.
Goodness.
Okay, drinks the elixir, and then he's awake. Now he's awake with all his demons and rebel and all his shit everywhere. Now he's got like zero awakened state of consciousness to know what to do with any of this shit. And he has to, and then it tracks his lives. The story tracks his lives. With eyes open, he has to find his way into his complete freedom. And one of the chapters is about this being that he makes an allegiance with, called a homunculus. And homunculus is like this empty, very clever, empty sort of shell that's just like all intellect, but it travels in the ethers kind of thing. And in a way, that's kind of a little bit like what these the Satanists thing is. It's like trying to be the sophisticated sort of ego, but it's just ego, really. I mean, that's really what they're doing. They're just working with ego.
Yeah, they yes, exactly. There's this. I'm touching a little bit about that on the variant. Gene, I spoke to him. It was last night, I suppose, or the day before. But anyway, I was speaking to him. I put that post this morning on the group chat, and there we spoke about the unquantified, the variable, and a being is a variable. A being is a viewpoint that creates dimensions. It is the viewpoint of dimension. A being is a viewpoint in essence. If you want to, it's not something that everything besides the viewpoint is created. Yes. Okay. Fine. So it's the variable part of. I was trying to think what I was talking about now because it was connecting to that. You were talking. What was the last thing you said?
The Church of Satan and the image, the worship of the image, the ego.
Oh, the ego. The idea that you see, if something is outside of self, like the Satanism, regardless at the end of the day, is trying to use the power that you've got against yourself. So it's actually that's why it is actually it is a hierarchy system. There'll always be this hierarchy, that there'll always be this like the top dog and the dogs under that dog and so on and so on. There'll always be trying to use what power you've got against you, and then say, well, you the stupid one, you went into contract with us. And a lot of it obviously tricks people into things when they didn't realize they were doing it. Like some chick who's working in a company or whatever, realizes, oh, maybe I made a mistake. This is really not as good as I thought it was. Not to say anything about awareness, at all. It's like, thank God you had the cognition. Wow, you've been working there for 10 years and suddenly you realize, I don't know. But I'm just saying that, so they use that. It's like mechanical. They're using mechanics against you, using your, to trick you into thinking. Like that's why they have to MK Ultra give you. It works for false data, and also creating demons and creating evil, whatever. It's all mechanical, and they use it against you, so that they have to dumb you down. They have to electric shock you. They have to do all sorts of things to you, drug you a bit or this or that, whatever, to kind of say, well, you the stupid one, I'm top dog because I know more than you. And then, it's really about it's basically domination. But as far as they're concerned, it's good for business. If you are a good slave and you're not intelligent enough to figure out how to free yourself, well, then you stay a slave and then we benefit because you are not intelligent enough to know what we know, and there's always a hidden hand. That's why this universe is not exactly an undangerous place. There's a hidden hand, and you don't see it, and that's their power. So they've created this whole science and technology and way of doing things with a hidden hand, and then they think, "Oh, we've got power." No, it's because you haven't shown me what you're hiding.
That's
true.
It's bad. It's very bad.
Business as well.
In business, that's a trade secret.
How they work. Yeah, that's how they work.
Too many secrets.
Anyway, guys, I have to go.
Yeah, sure, cool. We'll talk about the ultraviolet later. Then you won't worry about that this time.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it now? Or
No, it's fine. We can do it later. Okay. I'm just going to mention on a talk tonight about we just piloting this stuff, and we're going to go along with it and see how it works. And then that's all I'm going to mention for now, because I've done my homework. And then I'll talk about all the other things, Africa and the DUMS and cycle of action and freedom from, which is I want to talk about freedom from, and then a few other things with Julie B and whatever else there is.
Yeah,
so it's fine. We'll do the ultraviolet stuff later.
Okay, so we're talking about the ultraviolet, meaning looking at the light ultraviolet.
Yeah, this is ultraviolet processes. These are processes that deal with spiritual enhancement.
Yes, but sorry.
Yeah, so it's spiritual enhancement.
But what I was asking about was the project that Amanda asked us to do regarding the light, the ultraviolet light. And how...
Well, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can just share with Amanda that I was telling Rob earlier that I drew a map of South Africa and left space for the water, and then looked, and I could see the ultraviolet light. But the ultraviolet light it's a moving target, because the light moves constantly between places and also within density between places. So it's very difficult to give a graphic representation because it's constantly moving as light would. So I'm not quite sure if anybody else has done the project, but I'm not quite sure if your idea was for us to graphically represent it, or did we just have to say, yes, we saw ultraviolet light in different densities in different places? Or what was your expectation of that project?
So I'm just interested in what is seen when you're viewing the ultraviolet effect over South Africa. Like, are there predominant places that are higher density ultraviolet light? Is that seen as you looking at the land or at the sea or whatever, and where is it seen? That's really what I was interested in. So but yeah, so that's interesting to hear your feedback, Diane. But can we just close off this call for now, because I need to go and
okay.
Sure.
But I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
Sure.
More, and also, Diane, you could maybe share that with the group, what you saw. It's also just to help the level of inquiry, because I'm trying to help people to investigate into the nature of ultraviolet blue. What is it like? Okay. Let's look for it. Let's see it. Let's experience it.
There's plenty I can give you on that.
Yeah,
and it's practical. It's engineering and mechanics. It's not. There's many things that require faith and belief, and of course you have to have faith and belief in all sorts of different things, but it's experienceable. You can do it. You know where to find it, how to look for it, what you're doing when you go about looking for it.
Okay, that'd be great.
It's something you can do in the real world, and then you get this phenomenon where you feel kind of like a bit of an outer body experience, but with degrees, not like hectic, but just it depends on how powerful it is. It depends on.
Yeah, it would be nice to do a whole sharing, like maybe a Zoom call with a few people that are interested around that subject, because I've got a lot to share as well. It'd be beautiful.
Yeah. Well, then we can just compare notes, and I'll tell you what I do, and if it works for you guys, well, this is what I do, and then.
That would be great. That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
I used to see ultraviolet light around my bedroom door as a child. So on the outside of the bedroom door, the steel frame, when I used to.
Yes.
Yeah, it was there often, I remember, as a child. I don't see it so much anymore. I see it from time to time, but as a child, I remember it was there a lot.
Well, just bear in mind that when I'm talking about, sorry to interrupt there, Diane, but just bear in mind that ultraviolet is, if I put my hand on the side of my eye, just here.
Yes.
Just here, it's just because you get the visual world in everything you see.
The visible light spectrum.
Just beyond that.
Yeah, just outside. Yeah.
Invisibility. It's there. Sometimes you can meet a person that has amazing energy. Like you go to a shop, carrying bags and start plodding along. And then you meet this guy, he's like maybe 75, whatever. It's an oldish guy, Suddenly he's so nice to you, and he says, hi, and how you doing? Oh, what's your name? Oh, yeah. You start maybe to say hello to him, you think, I'm just being nice. But then he actually talks to you and you end up in a conversation. He's an amazing person. He's actually this really kind and friendly person. And you just think like, wow, and then you go home and you feel so much, you feel like so, you don't know what to do. You always feel like bursting out crying because you're just so happy, that this guy exists, it's like, that's a beautiful energy. And that's the kind of energy that you're looking for. It's very serene. It's very awesome, very unexpected. And so now, and it's not like it happens every day. It's quite rare. But every now and again, it might happen to you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's a kind of a way of. It's not something physical. It's not a apple or a plum or a table or chair or a place you went to. It was something that happened. That got just
an experience.
An experience, right? The experience, that's the key point. So it's an experience. We also learn and grow and kind of treasure certain things that are more experiences than the actual, than the actual thing itself. It was like the person or the place, but then there was something beautiful about the place. It couldn't be explained. It was like there was just something amazing about it. Something way beyond just a garden. It was something in that place that was mystical.
Yeah,
I had that when I went to the Caribbean. I was just, I ended up sleeping on the deck of the ship because I felt like it. I didn't want to be in my cabin. It was on the ship, and I was sleeping on the deck, and I better sleep under the stars. And the ship was actually sailing. I was sleeping. This amazing dream, and I saw the stars, I was asleep, but I was seeing the stars, and then when I woke up, I was still seeing the stars, and I thought I was always looking at the stars, and I wasn't even thinking, I was just going along with through this ocean from one island to another, sort of sleeping on a deck, but it was just the most amazing, and the wind does blow across your cheek. But it's so warm. The wind is so warm. It's like warm air, So you just pass out on the ship's coffee. It's a beautiful experience. And singing on this ship, because I used to sing a lot. So, this guy was playing his guitar and we were singing together. But the stars were on the deck, on the back, big back kind of, like huge deck, at the back. And then little fairy lights, and they had a little bar in the corner with kind of, they'd have made this bar with this, I don't know what it was, like banana leaves or something or whatever. And then we were singing around these wooden chairs and tables outside, like singing, playing guitar after eating supper or whatever. Nice, massive deck, huge amounts of space. Sitting there singing with this guy. And he actually is a rock star. He wasn't like a guy just playing. He actually was a rock star in Australia. So he was like singing his guitar and like singing and everything, all singing along. It was an amazing experience. He was such a person with so much life and so much energy. He was a cool guy. It was like, man, let's have some fun and drinking coffee and singing and whatever, and just floating around in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. And all the ships, all the yachts were anchored around us on the same island. So you've got this sky with all these beautiful stars, like stars that you would see only if you went out in the darkest place. When you see the skies riddled with stars. There's no lights of the city, so you can see that intense Milky Way, intense. All these other yachts from different places, Canada and Australia, all these different flags that they fly at the back of them. They have the thing at the back, and the flag always flies at the aft. And then you see all of them, and little lights, but they're all lit up. And then we were sitting here and we were on these little lights, and we were all singing together by this little island in the Caribbean. It was the most amazing feeling on the sea there. It was
beautiful.
Like, beautiful. And that's what ultraviolet's like. It shapes your life because it's so powerful, but it can be very subtle, very, very emotional.
Yeah, very subtle, very transcendental, very uplifting, very
uplifting and
deeply
like another
loving.
Like a level that's sort of beyond average.
It's the beginning of unity consciousness. It's like an unpolarized, peaceful, just transcendental beauty. Lots of those things. And
that's why
like a Buddha sort of consciousness type thing, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the real value. That's what you call your pay for living. And one of the things that I covered with her was your pay for living. Your pay, not your money. Your pay. Like, what do you get for a living? You're supposed to get that. That's what's in short supply. That's why people are so cross, because they're angry. They're not getting their pay for living. They're getting nothing.
Yeah.
They're working and growing the whole time, and they're not getting anything.
That's true. We've forgotten all that.
Exactly. It's like,
forgotten the joy.
South Africa's not easy. I'm just saying, us three, we were signing off now. I'm just saying South Africa is a very tough country to live in. It's been very hard for over the last 20, 30 years. Everybody's like looking at each other, you know, what's going on, you know, whatever. And you don't get enough of that. And that's just, if we had a world.
It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful exchange. I mean, when I've accessed that place and I can give that energy to others, it's just like the greatest joy, you know. It's just
the greatest joy.
Exactly. So benevolent. I mean, really.
Yeah. The greatest joy there is in life is sharing.
Yeah.
It's a fact. And then so just the stuff is my stuff. So what I'll do is you can't post it or give it to someone else. You use it for yourself. And then Amanda, you can just keep up with your guys when you finished with your sabbatical. And then if you do know of somebody that might want to do it or whatever, well, then you can decide and you can just give it to them.
Okay, so we know that it's yours, and I will totally 100% respect that. And Diane and I will sort of practice your technique, and then I will chat to you if there's another place that needs to be shared, and just check in with you on that. Okay.
And that's perfect. That's really, really great. I hope that we'll see what happens, and then also I'll do a session on the two of you. That goes along with it. I'll just do that as well, and then. But when I get time, but I'm not intending on. I'm not intending on charging you or anything. I'm intending on just getting some results and seeing, you know,
piloting a little bit.
It's not like I'm trying to, and then have a look at that. Yeah, and to see if something comes out of it without thinking too much. You know, don't think about it. We just do these things, and then
wonderful, and give you feedback. Definitely.
Yeah. Perfect, man. Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it from you as well, man.
It's so amazing. I'm just so happy to be in some kind of like love exchange, you know? Love exchange.
Wonderful.
So beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
And also at the same at a level where we can all learn, and it's really great.
Yeah, really nice. Thank you so much, Rob.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you want to post this on the group. Good luck with my tonight.
With Jean. Yes, I'm sure it'll go very well. I'm not sure if I'll be awake, but certainly I'll be listening to it.
We're going to be stuck when we're finished, because we're going to have chairs here, our laptops sitting here. We'd have to have all our stuff. It's going
to be so exciting.
It will be exciting.
I'm so thrilled for you.
I'm very thrilled.
All I want to do is just speed it up, because sometimes they go too slowly, and I'm like, bam, 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 let's go, you know, and then it's like when one person asks a question and another one. It's just sort of on Zoom, you can't talk too quickly. You know, you got to kind of pace yourself a bit.
I know, it's a bit of a pain.
This works well, the three of us. We don't seem to have much of a problem talking with our cameras on, with our
there's not much of a lag. It's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's going to be really great. So we'll see you tonight. I'll see you tonight, and thank you so much, so much.
Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
Very exciting.
We'll catch up for an ultraviolet blue sharing, and I think there'll be a number of those, and that'll be also very exciting to share with people.
Yes. And if someone has other methods to which they're able to find that or discover it or cause it or come across it, because sometimes you come across it or cause it, or whatever, then they can add to it and say, hey, listen, I do this.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Oh, really? I never actually thought about that. Because
I've got one to share, but I won't share it now. I'd like to keep this on your piece.
Keep it then we can put a protocol together with an ultraviolet team, and then we can do this, and then we can grow the group so that other people can learn the same thing.
Absolutely.
And then we can go from 50 to 500 to 5,000. And anyone who wants to learn something has to, can say, okay, this is what we do, and blah, 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 blah. And then, we can just grow it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever.
So what I'm
like
thinking, should I upload this as an unlisted video? And if anybody wants to listen to it, then it can be shared like that, or no?
You don't do editing, do you? Yeah, you don't. No, can't go to the public. Do you do editing?
No, I'm saying not to the public. No, I don't edit. So it would be an unlisted, unedited thing that would just be.
Because we do edits.
You want me to send it to you, and then you edit it.
We can. You can see in the background, Nikki's busy editing now at the moment.
Yes, no, I know. You've got your new.
It's very good.
Yeah, the new computer. So shall
I send this to you guys, and you can edit?
Yeah, you can send it to us, and then what I'll do is I'll take out the actual words that I've given you, and then we can release it to anyone.
Okay.
With the actual instructions. We'll edit out that part and say they'll just put something there, and then we can. Then you can decide how you want to release it to ultraviolet.
You mean take the protocols out?
Yeah, out, because it must be done with instruction. Like if you come back to me and say, "Am I getting it right? This is maybe that's quite an involved thing. It's not just you have to assist the person as they go."
Yeah.
And I have other people helping me as well, but that are not part of YouTube. So I also have people outside of YouTube that are that I assist. I've done 3 of those this week as well, besides the people on YouTube or whatever, like a YouTube person or whatever.
Yeah.
And they also are working for me on this issue, so to make sure I can crack it.
Great.
Yeah. So I've been doing quite a bit of homework on it. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So there might be updates. It's not just only that. There might be another update, or so eventually we get a kind of a protocol of like a package of things and a system of how to
it'll be amazing
something.
to release.
It'll be amazing.
Yes. Because as people ask questions and give feedback more and more,
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
because there's a major like this. There's one of the first remote viewing books that I ever read was Lynn Buchanan's book on the Seventh Sense.
It's
brilliant, a really brilliant book, and he talks about detoxification protocols. That's what he calls it. So the unsyncing, like desyncing or whatever you call it, of your consciousness from, like he said, often if you remote viewing, then you can pick up, you can get toxic from the site, and then you need to have detoxification protocols and stuff like that. So in a way, like you can also pick up, these what are they called?
Definitely
persistent undesirables or whatever.
Yeah, I mean you can call them. Yeah, site, I mean there's some beings that have that get persistent presences or whatever I call them. But then you actually do. I mean, okay, this is obviously not for everybody. I mean, it's not going to be put out into the broad public, but you also get possessing entities. So then that's a step way further than that. So now you get that, but I didn't want to mention that now because I thought people will say, what the hell? But you do get people. That's why you get some people that advertise, like in relationships, you'll get a guy who just abuses a person, a woman or a man abusing. And you just think back, what's wrong with this man? Why is he so, how can he do that? Well, you're not dealing with
you're
dealing with something that's.
Anyway, I don't want to go there.
No, I don't want to go there.
We had such a happy conversation.
No, we're going to stick to that. We're going to stick to that. Besides, we that's why I said it's just different gradients. If you have to, you have to. If you don't, you don't. But it doesn't.
We don't do it today.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you guys mind?
I'll catch you guys. Did you send it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. My computer's running out of battery as well, so we'll be automatically logged off. But from my side, it's just always a privilege to be with you, Rob. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Rob.
I also enjoy your chatting and just doing work.
Yeah.
Great.
Gorgeous.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful evening.
fantastic time tonight. Okay. Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, bye-bye. Thanks,
Okay.
Amanda. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Lots of
Okay.
love. Bye.